September 4th, he was found dead less than a mile away from that party on the side of a rural highway. He was naked, except for his shoes. And to this day, neither Noah's family nor the police know how he got there.
A brutally beaten dead body of a teen was found naked at the side of a highway in Oklahoma, and no one knows what happened. This is the tragic story of 19-year-old Noah Presgrove from Oklahoma. He was loved by everyone and soon was going to serve in the military. Little did anyone know his days were being numbered.
7 months later, they still have questions.
Stay tuned as we uncover the many twists and turns behind the mysterious death of Noah Presgrove. How did he end up bloodied and bruised on the highway?
The back of Noah's head was caved in, that he had road rash on his hip and gravel rash on his shoulder and multiple bruises.
It was a sunny morning on September 4th, 2023, when the Oklahoma Highway Patrol reported finding the dead body of a teen lying bare at the side of Highway 81, about 1.2 miles north of Terrell, Oklahoma, in Jefferson County. The body was later identified to be that of Noah Presgrove, who had gone missing from a party he was at with his friends the night before his murder was reported.
That four-day party turned into something awful that happened within just a short hour time span for him.
At the end of the day, what we know is that he lost his life. He was found on the side of the highway, and it appears that he was dumped there. And someone knows what happened, and we want to know what happened.
All of that doesn't make sense. From my understanding, they've ruled out a motor vehicle accident actually hitting him. But was he somehow thrown or came out of a vehicle to end up in this position?
In the latest interview by News Nation of an ex-FBI agent previously working on Noah's case, we learned that it was hard to make sense of the situation, even for them.
It doesn't make any sense. And I understand that at least there were a lot of people with information. What have they been saying? What have they said that makes police think that it wasn't something more insidious?
Noah was covered up on the side of the road with the tarp, and it was just kind of a good 10 minutes just staring at fields, just and a loss of words, you know.
Dalen Presgrove, Noah's brother, shares the heart-wrenching sight they experienced upon arriving at the scene. He explains how it was only a 30-minute ride, but felt like 2 hours with his dad sitting beside him, and then being silent throughout the entire drive.
Right here, his pants were folded up on that square mark.
His pants were there, his tooth was right there in that circle?
I believe so, yeah. And his body was here.
The sight is just horrible. Imagine having to explain to people how different parts of your loved one were scattered across the road.
He was in the fetal position, facing that way. And his body was covered up with a tarp or a blanket type of thing. As you're looking at it, you can see blood seeping through the covering and onto the ground.
Noah was reported to have been found in a fetal position, as if shivering from the cold with multiple bruises, showing signs that he was severely beaten up.
Suspicious death. And again, they don't tell me everything because they don't want to ruin the investigation, but they said that they've got a couple of people in mind on the situation, and that they're really looking in on them.
The cops have marked the case under the category of suspicious death. Moreover, they have informed Presgrove's family about investigating further the potential suspects for Noah's death.
So if 40 people are standing around and somebody gets into a fight, somebody knows about it, you know, and with how close everyone is, with how many pictures are taken on Snapchat, you'd think that something has to turn up. Somebody has to know something and just doesn't want to say it.
Noah's brother made a valid point, especially among teens where drama is always high. How can it be that someone went missing and no one had a clue? This further adds to the hunch of who the suspects can be.
I get it that you want to protect the investigation. I get it that you want to protect the case so that way it's carried out. but quite frankly, 7 months is too long.
Lastly, Daniel appeals to the authorities in charge of the investigation to provide more clarity to the families and highlight how, quite frankly, 7 months is too long. Others also share the same views.
We're just not getting no answers.
I feel that we have been pretty much left in the dark for the past few months. They say that they're working on it, but nothing's happening.
The main issue was that his injuries were inconsistent with one cause. It was almost as if he had been tortured with multiple injuries, pointing at several potential scenarios.
They say an investigator told them the back of Noah's head was caved in, that he had road rash on his hip and gravel rash on his shoulder, and multiple bruises.
Multiple possibilities were ruled in and out to figure out what could have left Noah in such a dire state. Was he pushed from a moving vehicle? Was he hit by a vehicle? What actually happened?
Some of Noah's teeth were scattered on the ground. A pair of white shorts was a few feet away, and the shoes that Noah had on, only one of those shoes belonged to Noah, and the other shoe belonged to a friend.
Everyone was puzzled when these cruel and strange details surfaced in the news.
Noah's aunt says that it was obvious his nose and his cheek were broken. His cousin says that his fingertips were shredded, as if he'd been holding on to something for dear life.
The autopsy report showed multiple bruising, broken bones, and severe blunt force trauma wounds. It was almost as if he was tormented by a giant bear with a baseball bat. What was more strange was that all the wounds were explicitly just on the left side of his body.
But there was nothing on the lower half of his body. Everything was to the top of his body on the left side. There was a wound to the back of his head, different skull fractures. He had ribs broken, and it was all on the left side.
Robin Smith, Noah's aunt, explained how the injury to Noah's head was the main indication that it wasn't a hit and run because he was too tall for a car. And if it were a truck, his head wouldn't have been attached to his torso.
If a semi or a truck mirror had hit him, they said, and this is a little graphic, but that his head would not have remained attached to his body at those highway speeds.
Ashley Chadwick, Noah's cousin, explains the sight of Noah's funeral with teary eyes. Whatever conspired that night had left Noah's family and friends in deep grief.
He did not appear of what he normally looked like. His face was so swollen, and you could tell with the makeup, like they tried their best. He was really dark complected. The bruising all over his body was tremendous.
Seeing how things were, Noah's family decided to make a Facebook support page named Justice for Noah Presgrove to share regular updates about the development of the case. They believed it would help create a platform for crucial information and a source of healing for them, with people reaching out with empathy and kindness. Noah Presgrove's sister, Rawling Presgrove, gave an enlightening interview on Fox News, which not only brought back the needed attention to the case, but also shared some critical aspects of Noah's unexpected death.
I'm just hoping that we get it all tied up and we get everything solved and all the questions that we're needing. I'm hoping that it's way less intense that we can't imagine it to be.
The Presgrove family, as mentioned by his sister in the interview, was utterly taken aback when they received the call for their beloved's death.
I just want to know, how he died. I want to know what scenario was played out that caused his death and what happened. I just want to know what happened.
There were questions that Noah's family and everyone who was directly impacted by this tragic and unexpected death wanted to know. The most crucial question being, just how did it all happen and why? What hatred compelled someone to not only murder but leave Noah's dead body out there to decay?
With them saying that they're not investigating it as a murder, there's so many other things that they are able to classify it as. So maybe they have just made some progress and were able to give us that kind of update.
The news came fast when the Oklahoma police announced that they were no longer investigating Noah's death as a murder. For many, it was a shocker, as it meant the police had ruled out the possibility of Noah being killed by an anonymous hater.
We now know that his death not being investigated as a murder, as you're saying, and there's so many people, not just his family, who are questioning why not. And Jennifer, we look at these details. His body found naked, his face so badly battered, teeth knocked out, spread around him. Help us understand why this case would not be investigated as a murder.
Natasha, it doesn't make any sense. And I understand that at least there were a lot of people with information. What have they been saying? What have they said that makes police think that it wasn't something more insidious?
Noah's sister, however, seemed to be hopeful about it. She said some progress was still better than no progress, and she looked forward to how the case would unfold.
Well, I don't want to just point my finger at anybody that I think could be involved or have any theories that are victimizing other people too, because in the end, Noah had passed away and nothing makes sense to us.
Another surprising reason the case was not being investigated as murder was the severity of Noah's injuries. The cops had initially suspected a hit-and-run scenario, but it was quickly ruled out as the wounds Noah had were not of someone hit by a car. When Presgrove was asked what her theory was on what could be the truth behind Noah's death, Rawling presented her doubts about the party Noah was at the night before he was killed.
But I do think that something happened at the party that he was attending the night before, and I just think that people know and they need to speak up.
Rawling agreed with the remarks made by her relatives about Noah's death. However, by the end of the interview, she still conveyed her message that she does not trust the people Noah interacted with, and their possibility of being involved in his death cannot be ignored.
I know those people out there. They claim to be Noah's best friends. They claim to love Noah, and I hope with my whole heart that that is actually what happened, is that they were not involved at all. But at this point, I can't rule it out.
Noah's brother also shared his theory on what might have happened that led to his brother's death in an interview after the officers called out the murder intent for the case. He stresses the possibility of foul play being involved, as it was in no way a hit and run.
And it does make sense, just because I don't see somebody planning this situation out against someone as loving, as caring, and good to get along with as Noah. You know, I really don't see anybody planning a situation like this happening.
Noah Presgrove was a humble person, loved by all his family.
Not a time when you saw that boy did he not give you a hug, tell you how much he loved you.
He was goofy. He was hilarious. Fearless. Very fearless. I've taught him life and about having fun in life, you know, and he's just always been there with us.
The idea of an anonymous hater planning to end his life in such an undignified manner seemed unbelievable.
You know, and we've spoken with several family members in the past week, some of which they're beginning to feel hopeless that the police investigation is not going to bring them peace. We know Noah's grandmother told News Nation, quote, "I have respect for law enforcement, but I don't feel like they're doing enough right now."
The Presgrove family had suspicions about Noah's circle and believed something might have happened when they were partying. It could have been anything. They could have gotten into a fight, but are trying to cover it up.
But it also deals with just leaving everything up in the air, because we don't know. You know, there's not enough information on that medical document. There's not enough information available to really figure out how this damage occurred to him and in what order did the events play out.
The biggest problem in this entire case has been one thing: vagueness and unclarity. No one had been able to answer the who, what, and why behind the strange death and injuries dealt to Noah. Lastly, Noah's brother agreed with what his sister Rawling Presgrove mentioned, that there is no way that so many people were together with Noah before his death, and that no one knows anything.
When I spoke with your sister Madison last night, she told me she believes that someone knows something and is not coming forward, specifically that something may have happened at the party Noah attended the day of his death. Do you share a similar belief?
Absolutely. It just seems bizarre that so many kids are around at the scene and nobody knows anything.
The purpose of the late Presgrove's family coming forward to the media was to shake the consciousness of those hiding critical information on their beloved's death.
I can't wrap my mind around having to deal with such guilt every night, whether it's my own guilt or that somebody else had a part in the situation. It just seems very bizarre.
All of them have mentioned in their interviews and posts that they don't seek revenge. They just want the answers to the questions to get closure. That's the latest update about Noah Presgrove's strange case. What do you think about it? Let us know in the comments section below.